It's exciting to be back for season 2 of Jmore Live, and I'm with my friend and a wonderful Rabbi Rachel Sabath Beit-Halachmi, who happens to be a PhD, and she is the inaugural senior rabbi at Har Sinai-Oheb Shalom congregation here in Baltimore. Rabbi Sabath, welcome back.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. What a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I remember it was, maybe a little over a year ago, we kicked off the inaugural season of Jmore Live. You were our very first guest, and I said at the end of that show, a year plus later, it would be time to have you back, and that time has arrived. So tell me what it's been like to lead the merger of these two historic congregations, Har Sinai and Oheb Shalom, and talk to me about what the year plus has been like, your successes, your excitement, and give us a taste of what it's been like.
Well, first of all, thank you. It's wonderful to be back. I was your inaugural interview, and I'm the inaugural rabbi, and now we are on the other side of our very first year of our newlywed congregation and our new relationship. And I have to say, it has been very much like that, like a first year of marriage, filled with joy, filled with everything being new and exciting, and filled with the opportunity to create the kinds of rituals and the culture that we want, and to really come to it together, bringing everything that each person has to the relationship. So it's been exciting. It's been filled with love from both sides of a new union. Love certainly with the new clergy. I felt a lot of love, and it's been challenging at times as well.
I mean, talk to me about the challenges. Okay, so being a rabbi, as we talked about before we went on air, and as you know, and some of our viewers know, my late father was a conservative rabbi in Tucson, Arizona. So I grew up in a rabbinic household, and I said to Rabbi Sabath before we came on air, being a rabbi is not an easy job. Being a rabbi in a post-pandemic environment has to be hard. What are some of the challenges that you faced during your first year here as the rabbi?
Well, I think some of the challenges in the first year were really about the sheer volume of what it's meant to try to get to know as many members of the congregation as possible, while simultaneously forming a new clergy team, a new professional team. It's really like, the expression changing wheels on a moving bus. It felt like we were changing wings of an airplane while it was in flight, So it's been challenging. I think there are times in which COVID, right, because it was kind of this, how would you describe COVID last year, right? It was this reappearing monster that would throw a wrench into all of our plans. And so it required a constant ability to pivot, but I think it developed our nimbleness. It made us much more flexible and responsive. What I learned is that people were thirsty for community, for spirituality, and for being able to be lifted somewhere new and somewhere different. Do some people also want to hang on to the best of who we've been? Absolutely. And so do I. In fact, I realized behind me, you can see a picture of, I don't know if it's clear, but that's Henrietta Zold, who grew up obviously at Oheb Shalom and became such a leader in the Jewish world and created Hadassah and Hadassah hospitals. And also we have this stained glass window.
Oh, lovely.
Which has the priestly hands, and that comes from Har Sinai. And so in every way, we are really blending together and also creating something new, taking the best of our past, and also thinking really deeply about who do we want to be 5 years from now. American Judaism and the Reform movement have changed a great deal, right, in the last 180 plus years. And these congregations, because of their new union as Har Sinai-Oheb Shalom, are now able to say, we have already done the hard work of knowing that we want to become something new. Now let's go and be it. And some things can happen right away, and some things take time. Rome was not built in a day, Jonathan.
No, it was not. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about Reform Judaism in America today. it has just this plethora of rich traditions. As you talked about, there's this amazing historical context for these two synagogues coming together. But what's it like to be a Reformed Jew in Baltimore today? I mean, how do you experience kind of your daily connectivity to your congregation, to God, to others through the lens of being a Reformed Jew? What does that mean?
That's a great.
Help us better understand that.
Well, what's incredible about Reform Judaism is really since the centenary platform, I could talk about the different platforms of the movement, since the 1800s, but since the centenary, which was actually 1976, for those who might have been alive then, really since that moment, there's been a real commitment in Reform Judaism to be pluralistic. In fact, one of our main thinkers, Eugene Borowitz, my rabbi and teacher of blessed memory, rabbi professor, he used the term capacious pluralism.
Okay, those are big words.
Right. So capacious means as broad and as wide as possible. And pluralism means that multiple ways of doing things are legitimate. Pluralism really comes from Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai in the Talmud, which is they could have different views about whether or not an oven was kosher or anything, or how to hang a mezuzah, or how to light the Hanukkah menorah, right? We're approaching Hanukkah. And they were able to learn from each other, respect each other. Sometimes they did rituals this way, sometimes they did them that way. And we are the inheritors, right, of a wide variety of ways of being. So I'll give you an example of how this operates, if I should keep talking. Yeah. So for instance, right, at our high holiday services, we had all of our B'nai Mitzvah, recent B'nai Mitzvah and recent confirmands and current current confirmands have aliyot, have the blessings before and after the readings of the Torah on all 2 days of Rosh Hashanah and on Yom Kippur. So amazing to have, right, 13-year-olds and 15 and 16 and 17-year-olds up there. Pluralism was like in full view. Some of them had a kippah and a talit. Some had just a kippah. Some had just a talit. Some had none of the above. And we are only in the process right now of creating a kind of forum to discuss and become a community of practice on worship, ritual, and spirituality. And so the pluralism of those behaviors, to me, exhibits a range. It's just one sort of snapshot of the range of ways of being a Reformed Jew when it comes to ritual.
So what you're saying is all are welcome.
Absolutely. That is a much shorter way of saying all are welcome, and all of our rituals and ways of being Jewish are welcome.
So let's take it a step further, and I'm always fascinated, your view from the pulpit, from the bima, whether on the high holidays or a Friday night service or a Shabbos morning service. I always wonder when I'm ever in a shul, and this may seem like an odd question, but let's talk about God. How many people how many people are actually coming to have a conversation with God during that service? Or are they coming to celebrate a simcha, to be part of a community, to come to shul because it's what they do? But I just wonder how many of our fellow Jews, and maybe non-Jews, could be non-Jewish spouses,
we have plenty of non-Jews in our congregation.
Absolutely, are there to talk to God. I mean, do you ever think about that from the pulpit?
I think about it. I ask it. It's one of the polls I like to take, at that precarious moment on Yom Kippur, right in the middle of the day. So I love to tell that joke that I'm sure you've heard a million different ways, right? If you were to, first of all, I'd love to be inside people's minds to be able to answer your question with some real data and metrics. But my sense is all of the above, none of the above, lots of other things, maybe in the same person, maybe even during the same service, they have all of those experiences. I'd say what I found here in this congregation is an incredibly active spiritual engagement that many people are really fully, deeply engaged. I mean, I could have forums on ritual and spirituality every day, and they'd be fully attended by different people.
Wonderful.
It's incredible. And it's, of course, as someone who comes from the field of theology in terms of my academic background, and obviously my day-to-day work, it is incredibly fulfilling and fascinating. So the joke, I got to tell the joke, right?
Yeah, what's a joke?
There's a Pew study, a very big, important anthropological religious study, and the researcher goes all over the world and asks Jews all over, people of all faiths, do you believe in God? Is that what you're doing here in your house of worship? How do you speak to God? Do you believe in God? Are you talking to God? And the researcher gets to a synagogue and wants to ask Mr. Goldberg and Mr. Goodman if they're really talking to God. So Mr. Goldberg says, I'm absolutely talking to God. It's so important. I've always, that's how I understand prayer. And, sometimes I feel God answers, sometimes not, but I'm in conversation with God. And Mr. Goodman, when they ask Mr. Goodman, so are you talking to God? Is that why you come to shul? And he says, no, I come to shul to talk to Mr. Goldberg. You know the joke, but it's
Very
true.
cute.
And they can switch spots in different chapters of their lives. In fact, just today, someone told me that they have had a crisis of faith, especially when our congregation was dealing with some very hard stuff. And now when they come, they feel that moment of questioning has been fully answered by the cantor and their rabbi coming together with the congregation and reminding everyone that we are so much bigger, right, as a congregation and as a people than any one moment. Right. So no one moment colors everything, and that we are actually now in a process of affirming our name. So we're taking nominations for our name.
Oh, how about that? So is that the news we're breaking today?
No, that's been out there in our congregation. In fact, the deadline if anybody in our congregation is listening and hasn't yet submitted, you can nominate names.
Wow. So
until Friday, and then there's going to be a vote. And what's fascinating is how many people just feel so good about what's happening that they are, saying we need permanent signs is actually the reason, the main thing we need to do, right? We need permanent signs, but we know who we are. We know what our values are. We know that we're a really alive, vibrant, flourishing. Our schools are doing well. Every Sunday we have something called Eat, Pray, Learn, and Do Good.
I love it.
Which I've been pushing, and it's really exciting. Every Sunday, this is, alongside religious school where the kids are coming, but we begin earlier at 9:15. Anybody can come and do Eat, Pray, Learn, and Do Good. The pray part starts at 8:45. The breakfast starts at 9:15. There's a learning seminar. We're studying the Israeli in Megillat Atzmaut, the translation, please. The Declaration of Independence, Israel, right? Celebrating Israel at 75. That's what
right. It's a big year.
It's a big year, big elections. Our congregation's going on 2 trips to Israel.
Wonderful. Tell us about that.
An adult trip is going in April, right after Pesach, and it booked up and has a waiting list right within like a week.
Wow. Okay.
And we have a family trip going next December, which is apparently there's already a full bus.
Now, are you going on one or both or neither?
I'm going on both.
Excellent.
How could I not, right?
How could you not?
I certainly want to go with the adults who I think are really, really eager to reconnect, have that experience with their rabbi, me, who's also Israeli. And so I have
that's right.
I have a very and fluent and have family there. In fact, our daughter's there right now on her.
Oh, how lovely. How lovely.
She's on a pre-army leadership training gap year program.
Very nice, very nice. So let's talk more about the Baltimore Jewish community for a moment. You've experienced it. We are definitely a unique community. So what are your thoughts about Charm City and our Jewish way of life here? I mean, has anything surprised you? Were you shocked by anything?
It's charming. I do think that Baltimore, well, who am I to tell anybody about Baltimore, but I have found it to be incredibly warm and welcoming, which makes it much easier for our congregation to truly be warm and welcoming.
Yeah.
The engagement that we've had of people in their 30s has been really interesting, and I wouldn't necessarily have expected that to happen so quickly.
Yeah, that's great.
What's also unique and wonderful about Baltimore is the multi-generational aspect of the Jewish community. A lot of Jewish communities don't really have it to the same degree, or haven't maintained it if they had it to the same degree.
Right,
Ultimately, is it that this is a place filled with, great universities and hospitals and companies, and that professionals want to come back and have grandparents present for the grandchildren. Oftentimes we have even great grandparents. We have 4 generations.
I love it.
At our simchas.
Very nice.
And we just did a double baby naming last week, and the parents, who are slightly different ages from each other, are both in confirmation pictures on our wall. The baby girl was born during COVID and hadn't had a Hebrew name yet. And the baby boy we had his bris also here. And it's fascinating, right? Multi-generations at everything who are in town and present.
No, that's lovely. That's lovely. I think I last saw you in person. It was Sukkot. It was a rainy, dreary evening. And if I remember, the Brotherhood was putting on like a pizza in the hut and a bourbon tasting.
There you go.
That's right. And there were like 50 people there. And you said, okay, everyone, even though it's raining, I think it stopped for like 10 minutes. And we all went outside into the sukkah and eventually a little etrog and sang some songs and shook it around. And it was just a marvelous experience. It really was.
We have that all the time. We don't necessarily have all 16 kinds of bourbon. I'm kidding.
And davening in the rain, right?
And davening in the rain. But it's amazing, as Reform Jewish communities go, the fact that people are really interested in all these holidays and building a sukkah. So I feel that we have in our community this, back to the pluralism, we have a huge spectrum of how people think about things and relate to them. And we want to make it all possible. We're celebrating.
I like that a lot.
We're celebrating one of our leaders who's celebrating 100 years of his family being involved in the congregation. And
Mazel tov. That's exciting.
Special birthday. So.
Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely. All right, so let's turn to a tough topic. We've all witnessed anti-Semitism is just all too omnipresent in our society today. I mean, it's everywhere. All of a sudden, it just seems like in the last, well, okay, those of us who've really been watching it, it hasn't gone away. But boy, does it seem like this fall, its ugly head is all over.
Yeah.
So what can we as American Jews do to curb the hate and to educate the broader community that, you know what, this is not right, it's not acceptable, and we can't stand for it? What can we do?
So I think there are 2 main things that I'm working on with the congregation, actually 3. One is to first of all, recognize it, name it. We had a letter, I don't know if you got it, I sent out a letter to the congregation with a lot of resources.
I think I did see that.
Right, for how parents can talk about it, how we can all talk about it, with links to articles. I very much am a follower of Deborah Lipstadt, right, who is
she's amazing.
She's serving as the United States Special Envoy for monitoring and combating anti-Semitism. And her book, Anti-Semitism Here and Now, has been very inspiring. It's not that it's new, right? It's always been present, as you said. And it is rising along with all kinds of hate speech, right? And harassment of various kinds, right? We're still reckoning with harassment of women being acknowledged. We're reckoning with a lot of things in our society. And I think we're seeing the tension around them. So 2 things. One is that I'm very much focused on. One is providing as much opportunity for folks to embrace and celebrate their identity. That I think is the most important response, right? That's the Kedushat Chaim, right? Sanctifying at every moment and celebrating being Jewish, and really building pride and strength of identity couldn't be more important than it is now in this situation. Because anti-Semitism is so closely linked to anti-Zionism and anti-Israel, that, and one often bleeds into the other. They're not always the same thing, but more often than not, there's an overlap. That teaching more about Israel and helping people of all ages have a more sophisticated, deeper understanding, excuse me, is also important. That's part of the embrace. I also believe that when we work on our Black-Jewish relations and our relations with we just had a big event with 3 churches, one African-American and actually 2 of them, and one not so much. Our engagement with others is a response.
I like that.
The more we have close, mutually respectful, honest relationships with others, that's fighting anti-Semitism.
Yeah. I mean, if you had a crystal ball, which I don't think any rabbi does, yeah. I mean, look, we know that the American voice seems to be very strained right now. This is a country that has a lot of strong opinions, whether we consider ourselves in a red state or a blue state. There's a lot of anger in discourse, and I'm just wondering, a year or 2 or 3 years from now, we hope and we pray it'll be better, but will it be better, or is this the new norm? Which I hope it's not. We see pictures of anti-Semitic statements being unfurled from bed sheets over highways, right? I mean, that's just insane. And we see comedians on major network shows jumping into the fray, thinking they're saying good things, and they're only making it worse. And we're seeing media personalities who have no filter. So will it get better? I mean, what does your gut say?
My gut says that we have an enormous opportunity to shift the narrative.
Okay, I like that.
Last night, I had, thanks to a congregant, I had the wonderful opportunity of attending the Baltimore Speakers Series, and the speaker was the Nobel Peace Prize winner, Maria Ressa, who's a journalist who exposes abuses of power around the world. And first of all, phenomenal. You should all read and watch her, what it means to stand up to a dictator. That is what we are, that kind of courage and that kind of clarity about how information and disinformation and misinformation flows, and how to activate all of the power that we have to activate the narrative of the good. That's what she inspired me. I actually got a chance to talk with her afterwards, that we have an incredible opportunity that if we think about how we use our voice and words, and we're a people who've never been lacking for words.
That's 100% true.
And if we really want to be able to shift the narrative, we're going to need to understand information, technology, all of the ways in which it is banked and used and manipulated. I think we have precisely the kind of intelligence to be able to shift the narrative.
Well, who doesn't love a rabbi who's optimistic and forward thinking and is willing to lean in, right? Is that you? Seems
That
like
is
you.
1,000%. And I really am optimistic. I can't think of a better time, truly, to be a rabbi in North America. And I can't think of a better time to be a Jewish person in the world. We have an incredible moment and great capacity. And the question is, are we truly going to harness all of our capacities for good?
Well, that remains to be seen. And maybe what we'll do next year, we'll come back for your third, show 3 years in a row, and we'll see, we'll take stock of how the world has done this past year. So as we wrap up, as we wrap up our conversation today, just a big thanks to Rabbi Sabath, to all of the great folks at Har Sinai-Oheb Shalom congregation. We wish you much luck on your journey and the new name. Well, when do we think the new name will be unveiled? Is that later this year, or is that like in 23?
Probably by the beginning of 2023. I don't have in front of me the exact timeline, but I will say it's going to be a reason to have a celebration. We had an incredible 5-week celebration of installation, Festival of Installation last year. We had Natan Shurbetsky and affirming and being able to shout our name solidly, permanently from the rooftops is going to be an amazing reason for a celebration. I think there there might be a reason why anybody watching this would want to join us. Jonathan and I hope that you'll join us, and
Yeah,
anybody watching will join us as well.
absolutely. So we're all excited. So Baltimore, tune in. It'll be fascinating to hear about the new name for Har Sinai-Oheb Shalom congregation. For those of you who are watching today, thank you. Spread the word, share this with your friends, share this in other Facebook groups, watch our Jmore Live page on our website, jmoreliving.com, as we announce programming for the coming months. And Rabbi Sabath, we wish you much success in the year ahead, and we look forward to continuing the conversation.
I do as well. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Thank you,
All
everyone.
right. Thanks all. Take care. Be
Shalom,
well. Bye-bye.
shalom.